I think, yeah, this is the new episode. Some exciting things as a podcast that we can talk about. So we've got a production team on now who are going to be editing. So this one will probably be the best sounding, best edited one to date because I actually haven't ever edited a podcast. So there you go. And yeah, we're going to try and take this little podcast of ours to that next level. I believe they call it.
You guys can fix up some of our stutters, some of the echo in the background, and I guess, my poor Bogan accent.
Exactly. So it's not your fault.
If you listen to this podcast, you will make your first $1 million within 3 years. I'm going to repeat that. You will make $1 million within 3 years of the first episode you listen to. We don't want pikers. We're not here to save the manatees. We're here to make podcasts. You really want this. You listen and review.
Put that coffee down.
Yeah, so in today's episode, what are we talking about? So we have a few interesting things that have come about. It was a really interesting month. So as we're recording this, I think it's the 1st of July. So
unless you're in the States, which half of our guys are.
Yeah. And June was a good month. We did over $100,000 in commissions.
Yeah, just broke it for the first time in commission, which is great.
Yeah, and just pure commissions, which is great.
Still owed quite a bit of cash from.
Yeah, that's from cash. That's from cash collected. We're still a few outstanding invoices, but we'll sort that on the back end. But yeah, so that was exciting. The guys' close rates are really good. I think everyone's sort of getting up towards that 60%, and the guys who have been on for a little bit less, they're getting up to the 50. So some guys are hovering around the 80, which is fantastic. And I feel like the monstrous amount of development that we've been doing, I feel like half my week is literally just doing training and coaching, which is cool because that's sort of what my job is. But I think we made a concerted effort probably 3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago, to take me out of producing revenue. And for those of you who don't know, I was producing probably 3/4 of the revenue for the entire company. So everyone's wages, everyone's superannuation, it was pretty much dependent on me making enough sales to get enough commissions to pay everybody's bills and pay for all the software. So we made a concerted effort to get me out of that because obviously that was a big risk. However, by me being able to put the time into our staff to train them to the level we want to be, then we've been able to replace that income twice.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way we do business, is just let's take the risks. We got to where we are by taking risks, and we are planning to do so, whilst also putting other safe measures in place, such as the closing code, that can support us to enable us to take bigger risks with our fallback and more security in the business so that we can keep killing it.
Yeah, so I think it's time for a little bit of education and a shameless plug. So that closing code, it's done really well. So for those of you who don't know, it's like our $50 a week sales training. That's $50 a week Aussie. So if you're in the States, it's like $35 a week. So you can't afford not to do it really. And we've just developed a super comprehensive sales training platform with 2 live trainings and a full portal for low ticket, high ticket, selling with memes, you name it, I'll put it in there. Live sales call recordings, weekly trainings, a whole bunch of stuff, right? And really it's designed for us to get that up to a couple of hundred people, which will then give us, I guess, a super steady, recurring, relatively passive income so that we can be crazy aggressive with everything else that we do and provide value and really just shake up the sales training industry a bit. It's so funny. I've done sales training courses for it's like $5,000 for a course, right? And the course is like a portal.
Which is upsell after upsell.
Yeah. And it's just guys, and courses are designed, this is my philosophy anyway, sales courses are designed to get you to a level or to teach you something you don't know. But no one is really going to get really good without coaching, right? And that could be one-on-one or group. You can go do it in a group, right? I don't think I've gotten to a level where I would feel comfortable doing a lot of really in-depth group coaching because I feel like it's a very individual thing, but I'm sure that someone out there can do it. But yeah, but once you get to a certain point, you're you want to learn an idea or a fundamental or a principle or a concept. And you're okay, cool, this course can provide that. That course doesn't need to be insanely expensive. Now, one-on-one coaching can be as expensive as somebody wants because if I charge 10, 15, 20,000 bucks for one-on-one coaching, Jeremy Miner's $30,000. I paid that. I was happy to pay it. It was, and I've gotten the value out of that 5-10 times, right? But it's all very nuanced, which is difficult to do in a group or a course environment. But these courses, they don't need to be super expensive. If you're paying $5,000 for a 12-week course that's a portal into Facebook Live. Like, in my opinion, it's sort of over. It's just like, it's not necessary, right? And so I was like, well, I am in a lucky position where I'm probably the only sales trainer out there right now who doesn't need to make any money from sales training, because we do earn 6 figures a month in commissions, right? So like, it's like, well, I don't need to make money through sales training, so I might as well make it accessible to everybody and create this giant passive income stream, because my goal is to make my course so good that people demand refunds for other courses.
Yeah, but also like, there are some people are paying $5,000 for a sales course just because there's a sales guy that's good on the other end. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
We
So
sales, it's like, if you want to do it. Like, I'm not going to spend the time trying to convince someone to sign up for a $50 rate program.
no, if you DM me, you will get a pre-done message and maybe a couple of memes as follow-up. That's about it. I'm not doing a call. Whammy. Yeah, we'll go over that in a bit. The next level. I have discovered the next level of follow-up, which is, it's gonna change the sales world as we know it. It's gonna mean all you ghosters out there, and you know who you are, the people who get information and then disappear. You have no chance. You guys are done.
Their sniper is eventually going to become Ghostbusters. Where we're going.
That's fantastic. On my course, Ghostbusters. Yeah, so I'll go into it actually. So the Cameo. So Cameo, for those who don't know, is like a service. It's an app where you can get celebrities to do custom videos for you for your birthdays. So I got I'm getting a couple of videos made up. I got the first one back where it's of the guy who is a whammy. So David Kekovich, I think his name is, and he's from The Office, and he's from
Anchorman is where that.
Anchorman. So he plays that guy. He plays the sportscaster of Anchorman, and he has a video saying, "Why aren't you replying to Matt's messages?" And that me and him are confidants, and that he just wants to reach out to see what's going on, because there's only one reason. Don't be scared to reply. All this kind of stuff. It's fucking great. I love it. So anyone who's ghosting me, they get first of all, they get a meme, then they get a GIF, then they get Dave Kekovich. If you don't reply to that, there's something wrong with you. But yeah, so the closing code, so I don't want this to be plug fest, but essentially we just designed it to create passive income, to increase, I guess, our reach, because I want people to know what it is we do and how we operate and some of the benefits that we can give people. And we don't give away the secret sauce in that group. I'll just tell you right now, because the way that I sell has to be coached, it has to be. So what we've developed is a low ticket and a high ticket methodology that works really well and is really effective and is highly teachable. And then when you start to master those fundamentals and you want to get into the next level of selling, then it would be okay, reach out, get some one-on-one coaching, get some script writing sessions, and then kind of move forward from there. But it's very intentional, because if I was to do a course on how I sell, it would be entirely unproductive, because there's so much tonality, pausing, negative space, all these things that are really nuanced, that are really difficult to do in just a course video environment.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of the guys listening do have fitness backgrounds. It'd be like trying to teach someone how to snatch and then learning how to do it from a YouTube video. Sure, you could get to a certain level doing that, but you need someone to tell you where your foot position is, what's going wrong, what's not turned on, what is turned on with your muscles, and where all your points of something is breaking down. You need that to be analyzed to get to that next level of hitting non-pussy weights on it.
Exactly. Right? That's what we're all about. So yes, that's the closing code. So we'll put the landing page in the show notes. So if you want to have a check and get into my web, you can see the garbage landing page that I put together for it. Because I'm not a marketing guy, I'm a sales guy. So yeah, so that's been some really good stuff that we've been doing. I've been really happy with it. We decided to go full bore with it, and we were going to sort of do but I just decided to go, let's just make it the fucking greatest thing on the planet. We're going to have heaps of calls in there and reviews and all kinds of stuff, everything you could possibly need to get good, pretty good at sales. So I encourage you to reach out and buy that product, because
we want to build a course good enough that people don't make YouTubes about us being scam artists, saying that this is the shittest course they ever did. We want people to come in and be happy. Then don't do it. We'll chat with you. We'll find out why, so we can improve things.
Also, it's actually acting as our staff portal. So I have three memberships, right? So it's standard access, done for you access, which is for clients. like big time clients, and then we have
sort of like some sort of franchising model, or where we build your system for you, you get access to our trainings at a high level.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like back end stuff, like managerial, all that kind of good stuff, like how to interpret data. But essentially, it's just a variation of what we teach our guys. So yes, that's been really good. It was a crazy month. One of the coolest things that we started is we sort of locked everything up with the Serhnant team, which has been cool. So for those of you who don't know, Ryan Serhnant from $1 Million Listing, so he's just signed on as a client of ours. We're going to be doing his coaching sales, which is super exciting. Great guy. I actually bought the course. Of course I did. Didn't even get a discount. I tried to say, can I get commission for selling myself? And they said,
discounted the commission because you technically made the sale.
Yeah, I made the sale myself. So that was fun. But I wanted to, they have like a personal branding strategist that you get as part of doing their course. So if you're a real estate agent out there, hit me up. I'll sell you into Ryan Serhant's course. It's pretty phenomenal. It's good enough for me to want to buy it. So I actually have an hour with Ryan next Tuesday night. So we're going to be going over personal branding strategies, sales strategies, and hopefully, not guaranteed, but hopefully I'll be able to cut that up into a podcast snippet, maybe like a 20-minute snippet.
Yeah, maybe some content. We'll see how it goes. A few issues on what he can and can't do.
I'm going to hit him up to be on the podcast. So you will know if that works because he will be on the podcast.
You know, as a salesperson, you get a lot of guys that don't necessarily believe in what they're selling, or they sell a course just for a guy that's possibly not the best course on the board and don't believe in the content. But you know, it speaks volumes on how good a program is when the sales rep buys it. It does not happen often. I've not heard of that happening before, unless they were mined. They bought that program some time ago, fell in love with the culture, the community that program or course provided, and eventually went on to become a salesperson for that. Not someone new coming in as a salesperson going, yeah, I'll buy that. It will work perfectly for me.
Yeah, and it wasn't cheap. Like it was $15,000. So there's no payment plans available. It's just they had to split the payment up into 2 payments simply because my credit card wasn't allowed that big a charge. But anyway, so I was really happy with it. I think what really got me was one, the hour with Ryan, which I've been a fan of his for years, but two also was we did like an intro with 7 or 8 of their clients, from like brand new real estate agents all the way up through, which was super, and like the way they spoke about it was pretty phenomenal. So I was really, really impressed. I was really happy. The team that we worked with is like by far the most professional team. Obviously they're a $100 million company, right? So their level of professionalism is on a different stratosphere from what I've seen before. And the things that I've learned just from being in the organization, seeing behind the curtain is very impressive, and the team they have is great. So I'm looking forward to taking some of those things and I guess like utilizing them and striving to that next level, and having Ryan as my little mentor, which will be fun because he's a dude that I respect. He's extraordinarily successful and he's very good at sales in his own right. It's a very different type of sale. It's much more of a follow-up, like creating relationship type of sale. It's not like get him to buy $50,000 over the phone in 45 minutes or pay $17,000 over Messenger.
Literally going to segue into that. Speaking,
I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, so I'm really excited about it. That's something that I'm doing. I'm a huge believer in development. If I think something solves a problem or is a benefit, I'll pretty much buy it.
It's a future problem.
Yeah, exactly. So the Ryan thing was a future problem because we're trying to position ourselves as like sort of like, I guess I want to be like the sales trainer, like the best guy for the industry that we're in. And I want our business to be like the business that everyone goes to for a system sales training, sort of like done for you. I don't want to do recruitment or anything, and I think that the way that we can do that is by being extraordinarily organized and having a long-term strategy that's branding and personalized, because I don't see anybody else doing all those things.
Yeah, but actually taking the action, sticking to that plan and solving issues before they become problems.
So if I need to be somewhat famous, I'm going to go to someone like Ryan Serhant, who is super famous, and say, how do we do this?
Yeah.
So that's the goal. Yeah, that's the goal. But yeah, so selling it, it's funny. We've been developing, because my wife, her fitness program launched. We tried doing some calls for it. It's for the mom niche. Phenomenal program. Like, I'm really proud of her. She's done a great job. I'm working with James Kant, who's, one of the best fitness marketing dudes in the industry. right? And it's working really well. We're getting super cheap leads, but we just couldn't get these women on the phone. They're just no-showing all the time. It's because they were falling asleep because they have brand new babies because it's a program for new moms. And so I was like, man, let's just sell these chicks over Messenger. I was like, let's just do that.
So there's going to be that inconsistency getting them on the phone because kids come first.
Yeah, exactly. And people are conditioned to have D&Ms, like deep and meaningfuls over text these days. I mean, especially like, I don't know, this sex is especially women, right? Like I don't like texting that much. I'd rather just call someone, have a 2-minute conversation and be done with it. I call you like 140 times a day. So you know that, right? Mm-hmm. And my wife is the same way. I don't like texting, I just call. But so I was like, well, if these women are conditioned to do that and they're engaging well on Messenger and we're getting a lot of information and booking them into calls, but then they're going dark, it's because like, there's just an incongruency there, right? So I started taking over the Messenger myself and then selling people. And this is like it's a $800 product, right? So this is not like a huge thing. But in fitness, nobody sells over text. Like that's unheard of, right? So I was like, okay. And then I ended up closing 3 out of 4. The 4 conversations that I had, I closed 3 of them into $50 a week. It was or $200 a month, whatever it was, right? It's a 4-month program for $200 a month. I was like, okay, sweet. So this is definitely possible. So then sat down with Dave, who's helping us with the sales for it. I was like, hey, we're going to do everything over text. So redid all the funnels, redid all the thing, and we're just putting people straight to text. And like, it's been working. And so I was like, man, there's something to this. I wrote specific text message scripts. And I was like, it was a great exercise because I had to cut out like everything that wasn't entirely necessary, like to the bare bones, and like reword things in ways that was like, okay, how do I get, because we have to keep the conversation pumping, right? And we got to get it done quickly. So we did that and I was super happy with it. And last night I got a guy reach out to me and he was like, hey, I'm in the closing code, obviously loving it, right? He's like, I got 3 staff. I want you to do one-on-one coaching with them. Like, is there, like, do you do that? And I was like, oh yeah, man. Anyway, I took him through the script, $17,000. Boom, good to go. So, and I was like, wow, this is pretty powerful. I did not think you could sell something that expensive without talking to somebody.
So the belief systems, times are changing. You got to adapt. Let's just go back to the back to me stuff with Sammy and the messenger scripts.
Yeah.
The moms, are you doing those closes in a single conversation, or is that broken up over multiple conversations? Because moms get busy, they put the phone down. Do they come back with that?
They come back, yeah. So
that you left.
Yeah, that's what I've found. So like it might go over 2 days, but the way we've thought about it. So Dave, we budgeted out his time. He can have 25 simultaneous conversations. Mm-hmm. So we're going to add, we have a VA get the go ahead to do coaching via text. Then the VA puts them into close and does the first message. And then it's all just on a computer like that. And then we can automate everything. So then we can track everything through that. And so it's just, I've got to do that video today. Actually, I'll teach you how to do that, unless you already have one. But that's sort of behind the curtains. So yeah, get her to do that. And then he can have probably 25 conversations at first. So we're going to be getting 5 leads a day going to that coaching via text model. So, and I have all the numbers of how many we need at the top of the funnel to get them into that. So it's only going to cost $60 a day. And then from the 5 a day, he'll probably close 2, which I think would be great. So that means we'll be getting 2 sales a day, so 10 sales a week via text, which will be fucking phenomenal. And like the scalability of that is enormous. One, because you can find a VA to do it. So you could have someone who is like a relatively intelligent, independent sort of VA who could manage that. It would take a little bit of training, but you can do it. What's that?
They have to have a critical thinking capacity, which is probably the hardest thing to find in a VA. So when you find one, nurture them, pay them extra, make them a part of it.
Yeah, like we have some phenomenal VAs, and they're hard to find, not because of like anything to do with where they're from. It's because of the cultures that they come from. A lot of the cultures in the countries with VA, like they're taught to not think for themselves. And so like, that's why you don't get a lot of like entrepreneurial spirit coming out of those countries. But we treat our VAs exceptionally well, and we pay them extra. I treat them with respect. I treat them as part of the team. Like when I have like, Jen, when we have her on our team calls and she's taking notes, I ask her, hey, what are some things you had this week? Like you have to treat them like humans. And I think a lot of people don't do that. They just treat them as like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've seen so many people mistreat their VAs and just use them as a number or almost as a slave. And you're never going to get the best out of that person unless you treat them as if with the respect that they deserve, because they're still a human. They just work for you at a potentially cheaper rate, you know?
Yeah. So it's all been really good. And yeah, that selling over text it's been successful so far. So we're looking to slowly scale that up, but that's something that I'm going to potentially wrap up into a course. I had this hilarious idea. I was like, I'll do a paid masterclass on how to sell over Messenger, right? And then I'll fill that up in Messenger.
To the masterclass and just message everyone.
And then I'll do a masterclass on how to fill a masterclass. And because everyone in the masterclass, they know that I can fill a masterclass, they'll buy that one too. It's fucking stupid, but it'll probably work. Yeah, so just inception all day. But yeah, so it's been exciting, like just exploring new avenues of how you can sort of persuade people. And I've been really into like the art of persuasion lately, listening to podcasts and reading books and just sort of like look at different ways of persuasion and sort of how, and I think I've figured out that like you can do it over a bunch of different mediums. It's like, it's how you can sell people over email. You know what I mean? It just things take longer, but they probably require less time.
Yeah.
Because it takes you 15 seconds to reply to a text message. So if it takes you 50 texts, you know, to sell someone, in reality, I think I counted up. I think it was about 35, right? So let's just say it's 40 texts multiplied by 15 seconds divided by 60 is 10 minutes. You know, like it's 10 minutes of you. So like, you know, if you close in 60 minutes, you could have closed 6 people over text in that same aggregate time, you know? So it's interesting.
Yeah, and there's a way that we're going to be able to find and scale that so it is consistent. It's going to take time to do the marketing list.
Yeah, and then it's just about finding which products it works best for. But I know heaps of DM teams are selling $1,300 products over DM. But I mean, yeah, I think with the right people, you could probably sell more expensive. But I think it's going to be, obviously, everything with an ROI attached is much easier. So sales coaching is probably it's probably the easiest thing to sell over that methodology. For the highest price point, you could probably do 30 grand because there's so much ROI attached to it. So,
but also that's only going to work if you need to do the pre-work before you get to that text message. No one knows who you are. They don't give a fuck. They're not going to buy if you over a couple of text messages. You can't work your way around that. It's only going to work if there's pre-existing trust coming into that relationship to make people open to having that conversation, giving you what you need via.
Yeah, for sure. So like with my wife's funnel, we have a bunch of different, like there's heaps of videos and targeting to get them into the funnel to warm them up. So when they do get into Messenger and then I have a Messenger script, it's like that takes them through a thing, and there's a specific script that they do, which gets them all warmed up for wanting to speak to someone over text, and they speak to them over text, and it's like those people are like pretty well qualified. And then I have a catchment system for the people who don't, when they get sold over email. Yeah, which is like should be finished. Actually, I think got finished last night, but that'll be a great one. So the plan is to be able to get about 15 sales a week without having to actually talk to anybody. Which will be a fucking game changer, because me and James, that's $50 a week or $200 a month. Me and James used to have to sit there on a phone for hours to get 15 people that we could buy for a gym.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. Imagine how many gyms there would have been if they listened to us and put that stuff in place from get-go.
Nobody listened to me.
Probably never would have went to information.
Fuck them. That's something else about the other day. I was like, yeah, I hope if I saw him the street on fire, I wouldn't piss on him. But yeah, so, you know, do things the right way and it works out for you. Do things the wrong way and the grubby way, it doesn't work out for you. But yeah, I think like this way, you know, nurturing people through. I was having a conversation with one of our sales guys today about like, how do you determine like what is a good thing to have in your sales tool bag and how do you determine what isn't? And if the things that you determine are good to have, is it because it makes you feel good or is it because it progresses the conversation? And I think like this is something I don't hear a lot of people talking about, because I don't think it's a particularly comfortable subject, because it really challenges like the core of why people say things. And like everyone says, you know, do this and do this. And like a disqualification framework is so garbage. Like I can't say it loudly enough. Like if you go into a call and you're like, oh, well, you know, they weren't serious enough. So I just disqualified them,
Look to
didn't
qualify
pitch.
rather than disqualify.
Yeah, it's like, well, maybe you're just garbage at sales, bro. You're just not very good at persuading people, or not very good at taking the cost of an action. You're not very good at. And I see people do it all the time, and it's just like, man, like that is there to make you feel better. Like one of our biggest clients, right? I won't say who it is, but they're a big business coach, and they sent me a sales call that they couldn't figure out why it didn't close, and it was kind of like as an audition. And it was of the guy who's currently doing their sales, who's also the head of operations. And I was like, that was terrible. And I said, I can tell you in the first 4 minutes, this isn't going to be a close. And like straight away. And then the objection handling was very much like, okay, well, they had a genuine logistical objection about why they couldn't sign up that day. And there were a couple of things, and there wasn't much cost of inaction. And it wasn't a very good frame to begin with, to be honest. But at the end of it, it was like, well, we only want to deal with action takers. And so if you're not willing to take action today, I'm sorry, you're just not a good fit for the program.
It's like, hey, man, I have to pull money out of my savings account to pay for this, which I'm happy to do. That's going to take 3 days for it to hit my account. So I can't pay you now. It's not good enough. We need action takers. We need money now. It's like, okay, lose the sale if you want.
That happens all the time. And I listened to this call and I was like, and oh man, it was so combative. But then at the end, it was like, well, if you're not willing to take action today, you're just not right for the program. And I was like, man, that is just such a bad framework to use. I was like, one, you'll never have a follow-up sale ever. And probably like 30 to 40% of all, 30% of all sales are probably on follow-up, right? So like if I make 100 sales, probably a good 65 to 70% of those sales will be on the first call, right? But then like 30% or 30 to 35% are on the second call, which is on the follow-up. So like if I just push the people that hard, I might get 1 out of 5 people who would sell on follow-up on the day. I might.
They pull out too.
Right?
So we know the pull out rate of those people that get pushed and have to be objection handled extremely hard is significantly high. I don't know if the actual stats with me, but it is something we have looked at.
Oh yeah, because we had it. We were selling for a guy and we were having like 1 in 3 pull out.
Yeah.
Like within 24 hours. And I was like, well, that's not a delivery issue. That's a sales issue, right? So then we had to go back and have a look at how it was being dealt. And the way that you handle objections, right, is going to dictate how happy the person is after they sign up. And so the way that I handle objections, you take the objection and you identify it. So like, you're super calm. It's like, okay, like that's not a problem. That makes total sense. I suppose, is it this or is it this? Can you just help give me a little bit of clarity? And it's like, oh, okay, it's this. Okay, so now we've defined it. Now we take it from an objection and we turn it into a problem, right? Because like objections need to be overcome, problems just need to be solved, right? And a lot of the time when it's objections, it's a bit of a tennis match. So it's like, well, you need to think harder. You need to, but I need time to think, and I need this, right? And then you eventually get closer and closer and closer, and one person wins, right? And when one person wins, nobody wins because, like, a man whose opinion is changed against his will is of the same opinion still, right? So you changed his mind temporarily, but he still has the same underlying thoughts. So as soon as you get off the call, that buyer's remorse is going to kick in, right? And they're going to pull out, or they're going to get a week into the program, pull out, right? So, but when you make it into a problem, then it's like you then go to the same side, and now you're like, okay, how do we overcome this? Right. So like, let me ask you a question. If you did, from what you told me, like money seems like it might be an issue for you, and I can totally understand that. I suppose like if you did have the funding available, would this be the right move for you? Yes, it would. Okay. Can you just tell me why though? Get them to defend that statement, which entrenches them more in the act of buying and wanting to do it. But the problem is there's just not enough money right now. Right. And then go, okay, so I suppose, in order to put you in the best position to be able to learn these skills, and again, not do the program. We don't want to talk about the program. We want to talk about the skills that they get from the program. I guess, like, what do you think are some ways that we can work together and sort of move forward so that you can get these skills? And then, like, what are a couple of ways that we can maybe come up with some of the funding? And then, like, you ask it that way, and now it's like, how do we overcome this problem? How do we fix this? And then they're going to give you a few ideas, and then that's when you can offer a payment plan. If I was able to break that up into a couple of different payments for you, would that make it easier for you to proceed? Yes, it would. Would you like me to go through that with you? Yeah, that'd be awesome. Okay, great. This is what we can do for you. That's why you always pitch the payment for.
Yeah, the prospect needs to come up with the solution himself. The deep subconscious of they won, you didn't overcome them. Like you didn't beat them. They came up with the idea.
Yeah, because like alpha type personalities as well, like real dominant personalities, they hate being bested.
Which is a lot of people that you would sign up for business coaching, business owners.
A lot of entrepreneurs, yeah. So you have to come up with a way that isn't like a you. Like, trust me, when I've done it, like I've even got examples.
Yeah.
Because like, okay, so it's an effective way of objection handling, and it's not something that you shouldn't learn to do. However, there's better ways, but they take much longer to learn to do properly. So like if you were trying to objection handle the way that I objection handle, like it's not going to work. Because it's like, it makes sense like a douchebag statement, but it's so nuanced that you have to set everything up perfectly for it to work. Whereas like the more combative way of objection handling, it works even if you haven't set everything up properly. But it's nowhere near as effective. You have a higher pull-out rate, and there's a whole bunch of things that go along with that. But if you're new to sales,
then do that.
Fucking boxing match away. Do you know what I mean? Like get your chops and then just realize that there is better ways, but you have to sort of progress towards them.
Yeah, until you can slowly learn how to.
Yeah.
Better way. It's funny just talking about sales from follow-ups. We're having a conversation with one of our clients. He's like, hey, the conversion rate doesn't look really good. It's down 20% this week. It's like, yeah, okay, is it though? Right? So yeah, the conversion rate is sitting at 20% now because we've had X amount of calls booked in. There is more sales to come. It's just we haven't signed everybody on that first thing. And we're looking at our numbers from things that are in the diary that current week. This was about Wednesday ago. So let's look at the numbers for this week so far. Now, all of a sudden, some of those sales calls that we had last week have actually gone through that follow-up sequence. They've paid, they put the deposits last week. They committed last week, signed the agreements, but they hadn't actually signed up, paid the.
Because we don't count deposits as sales. They have to have paid.
So now we're looking at this week and we're at a 200% close rate because we've made more sales than calls we've actually taken.
You heard it here. Sales Sniper closes at 200%.
Yeah.
60% of the time, it works every time.
And that's why having data is great, but knowing how to interpret that properly. So we don't look at any given week. We look at the average over the space of, we'll look at 3 weeks and have that as a shifting scale. What is our shifting scale of averages, our close rates? Because one week you might have a stupid amount of no-shows. That could just be shit luck. That doesn't mean there's an issue with no-shows because it averages out. And that's the thing. We need to ride the wave. Things go up, things go down. You get high show-up rates, you get high conversion rates. Then you get lower show-up rates, lower conversion rates. But what is important is managing that wave and looking at the average. When the average is changing, that's when you have problems that need to be addressed.
Exactly. And you have to have metrics that you understand. So if there's a low amount of leads, we're going to book more of those leads through because we still want to have the highest sales possible. So we have to have a metric to go, okay, these are probably unqualified sales calls that we wouldn't normally put through. But do we need to be princesses? And this is a big problem with a lot of salespeople. Like, I only want fucking warm leads booked into my diary because I'm a fucking closer and I'm a savage. Like, first of all, you suck. Like, you suck at sales. Like, that's first of all. Like, if the only thing you've ever done is a high ticket closing course, you're garbage, right? That's just the way it is. And I'm sure you'll be good and I'm sure you can get good and all that kind of stuff, but it's just the way it is, right? The second thing is you have to put your ego aside and go, okay, is my job here to have the highest close rate? Or is my job here to have the most sales? But you have to learn to separate your psyche from the calls that you know are unqualified. And you have to be able to put that into perspective for a business owner saying, hey man, so leads are down by 30%. So I'm going to book in way more than what I usually would, which means my close rate's going to go down. But I'm going to mark those people in the CRM as probably like underqualified sales calls, but it'll give me a chance to play around with a few things, but they're not going to affect I'm only going to count the people who I've pre-tagged as qualified.
Exactly. It's like, do you want to protect your close rates? Or do you want to make more fucking money?
Yeah. Yeah. And the people who say I want to protect the close rates, it baffles my brain. It's like, well, yeah, you obviously want a good close rate, but I'd rather have a shitty close rate and make buckloads of money.
The equivalent of the attorney general or the lawyer that won't take on a case knowing that they might not win it so that they can keep that perfect record.
Yeah. It's like, sometimes you just got to play around with stuff, have a bit of a crack.
Don't be a fucking pussy is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Just get in there, boy. But yeah, so I think that's a real problem. But again, that's what data does for you. Like having that comprehensive data system where you're like, just bing, bang, bong, and you understand everything and and then you're making deliberate decisions. Like just everything you do has to be deliberate. And so, hey, we're going to put more people through. The close rate is about to drop, just so you know. Okay, sweet. So when you have a conversation next week, hey, the close rate's dropped. It's like, well, yeah, I told you because of this exact reason. But you got an extra sale from that. So like if a sale is 20 grand, it's like, hey, congratulations. By us stuffing ourselves around, right? By putting people through who we knew we couldn't sell, we closed one of those people, right? Which we never would have put through. So you just made 20 grand from us stuffing ourselves around. So congratulations. I'll go ahead and take my commissions now.
Okay. Well, I guess we can move on for that. We talked about that enough. Well, I suppose we can finish off with, we got to that 100K month. What do we think the biggest challenges were?
Commissions. We did more than that, but just in comms.
Okay. What do we think the biggest challenges were to hit that or getting to that stage?
I want to be selfish and say lead volume. We could. I mean, that's, if you have a look at the entirety of it, it's actually quite impressive because our biggest account had a terrible lead month. So, and I think I've discovered something in sales. And I think we started to shift the company away from contract value to cash collect. I think contract value is like, what's that? It's like, like the wine of the fool or something like that.
So, well, here's the thing. Contract value and saying I saw this much in contract value is essentially just having a dick measuring contest.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas cash collected is girth.
Basically, yeah. So contract value is measuring your cock.
Yeah.
Collected is using it.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Stop measuring your dick and start using it. There are three types of people in this world: dicks, pussies, and assholes.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I love it.
Because that's it. Like if you shift those goalposts, if your target is to sell this much contract value, it doesn't always get fulfilled. If your new target is to bring in this much cash, you're taking more up front, you're getting bonuses from hitting targets, and you're making more commissions because we're bringing more cash in, which means that those clients will spend more money on ads, get you more leads, make more sales, more commission, and are significantly happier.
Exactly. And it buys into a fallacy that selling something that's more expensive is harder.
Yeah,
right? Which just isn't true, right? Because generally speaking, the sophistication of the market dictates the price, right? So if you have a highly sophisticated market, like if you're selling, like Taki Moore, for example, selling coaching to business coaches, he could charge whatever the fuck he wants, right? Because it's a highly sophisticated market. It doesn't mean he's providing that much of a better service of a guy who's selling an amazing Amazon Pro program for $5,000, right? But the sophistication level of that market is people who are probably they're looking to go into business for themselves and they're looking for a barrier to do that. So they're not aware of how much coaching costs, right? So that's no easier or harder to sell than a 30K program, right? And so what it does is it allows us to have a look at the efficacy of a salesperson and what they're doing from a more realistic standpoint, because if you're selling a $36,000 program, which is $3,000 a month, right? There is no reason why you should only collect the first month. It's just like I was having, with Marco, who's a phenomenal salesperson. I'm trying to get him to shift his mindset. I was like, you need to collect 2 months up front from everybody. I was like, you know why? I was like, because I don't care about contract billing anymore. I care about cash collected. And so if Temple's over there selling $5,000 programs and everyone's paying in full, because pretty much everybody will, right? Then he's going to beat you, right? Just flat out, he's going to beat you because he's going to sell 5 of those a week to $25,000. If you have to sell 10 programs at $2,500 a month to compete that. So you have the lead flow, you have the opportunity, start getting more up front, right? Or start getting more paid in fulls, use the finance options that we have, because that's just going to make it so much easier for our clients to liquidate their ad spend, put more money into it, and it's a real truer indicator of how much persuasive power you have over that person. Because if someone goes, hey, so we, it's a $25,000 investment. All right, perfect. And they go, there's some payment plans available. And we go, okay, cool. What is it? Well, it's a monthly fee, but we take $5,000 today. The norm is the norm. Whatever you dictate is whatever you dictate. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it doesn't mean you have to just take the first month. So I think it's a really it takes away the ego, because selling $50,000 programs, it's great, but you haven't taken $50,000. You've taken 4 or 5 or 3. So like, I really want to see that shift in the industry. And I think the business associate industry is really bad for it because they post up all their clients' results. Oh, my client sold $150,000 this week. And it was like, no, they fucking didn't, bro. Like, let me see the Stripe account. I want to see that on this week revenue, cash in the bank. Otherwise, like, oh, they, you know, especially with like fitness business coaching, I mean, they're terrible for it. You know, oh, the guy sold, you know, like I remember I used to do it. I used to be bad for it. I'm like, oh, I sold 100K this week. And you know what that does? It breaks your brain because you genuinely think you made that much money.
Yep.
And then you go out and spend like you made that much money, but you only collected 5% of it.
Yeah, and then you see your weekly recurring debits and it slaps you in the face.
Yeah, man, like that killed me when I was young. It's an ego game.
You're making all this cash, but do people fulfill that contract and continue paying you that for the amount of time you sign them up for?
And that's not a reflection of you being good or bad. Like there is just a natural attrition rate, you know, so whatever. But I reckon that's enough time for today. I really appreciate this. I don't know what the title is going to be, but it might be the rantings and rambles of salespeople.
Let's call it just like a weekly rant or shit. We'll cover the content.
All right, cool.
Reviews and various stuff that we'll do.
All right, guys. Got any questions, queries, or data points? Hit us up on the podcast. The email will be below. Make sure you subscribe, set a review, watch us on YouTube. It's going to be going on YouTube now. It's going to be going out on Spotify, Stitcher, you name it. It's going to be there. Whatever podcasting you listen to, make sure you give us a 5-star review, even if you don't like it. If you don't like it, especially, it really bugs me if you give me a 5-star review and you don't like it. So, you know, if you want to piss me off, go for that. But if you do love it, give me a 5-star. I really appreciate that. And again, if you don't like it, you can go fuck yourself. This is Matt out.
See you guys. Thank you.
Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only.